I was in India for the first time in autumn 1988, and just at that time the Satanic Verses affair erupted with the ban on Salman Rushdie's novel, The Satanic Verses. In that period, was ordered by Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi at the request of the Muslim leader Syed Shahabuddin. And I read a strange polemic in several newspapers, especially in the Communist Fortnightly Frontline, where a number of hardline secularists, especially the communists, strongly opposed this ban. They thought it was a concession to religious obscurantism. And on the other hand, more moderate secularists, like from the Congress Party, and so at that time, especially Khushwant Singh and M.J. Akbar, who later became a BJP ideologue, but so was then with the Congress Party, they supported the ban. They found some specious reasons why freedom of speech does not demand that this book be published and so on. And so I thought this was very interesting. In the West at that time, I would have thought that secularism meant supporting criticism of religion. And so that certainly not justifies such a ban. But so in India, it seemed that secularism was not exactly what we thought secularism was. Now, in informing myself about this, the backgrounds of this debate, I noticed that the Rushdie affair was actually rooted in the Ayodhya affair. It was because Syed Shahabuddin had announced a Muslim march on Ayodhya to coincide with the Hindu festival there, that Rajiv Gandhi calculated, you see, this is going to be a bloodbath. I want to avert it, and a price I'm willing to pay is to ban this book. So that's how my attention to the Ayodhya affair was drawn. My first article about it was just after the death sentence issued by Ayatollah Khomeini against Salman Rushdie on the 14th of February 1989. So in the first days of March, my article in the Communist Flemish Fortnightly Toestanden, toestand means situations, so that appeared there. And so in that article I explained, and so that was a new thing, I called the attention by explaining that the Rushdie affair that then everybody was talking about was in fact rooted in this Ayodhya affair. And so that's how it all started for me. My first meeting with Sitaram Goel, which was in late 1989. And so I had already visited the RSS headquarters, Jandewalan, headquarters in Delhi. I mean, their national headquarters are in Nagpur. But yeah, I didn't think it important enough until then. But so I visited Sitaram Goel, and then I started understanding the communal situation in India. And so then I remember, we were talking about the face of the communal debate in India at that time, namely the Ayodhya affair. And so I was quite enthusiastic about it. So when I left, I said, okay, I'm going to write about it. And, in a few months, you'll hear about it. And so he told me afterwards that, inwardly he smiled and thought nothing will come of this. But so to his surprise, I did write a book about it. Now, it's not a particularly important book. It's essentially a journalistic book that just describes, what the fuss was all about, gives the arguments that were doing the rounds at that time, and concluded that, clearly there had really been a temple there. And so the mosque standing there was really the fruit of a purposeful temple destruction. And so that earned me a lot of sympathy in Hindu circles, which was important because at that time the Hindu movement still had this culture of secrecy, of secretiveness, and they greatly distrusted outsiders and especially Westerners. It also had to do with the original culture that the founder, Dr. Hedgewar, came from. So for a while he had been part of the Bengal revolutionary movement. And that movement, operated in strict secrecy. They never created documents to send to each other because documents can fall into the hands of the police. So it was all oral communication. They actually had to travel to go communicate with someone. And so Hedgewar had that mentality, and so that initially conditioned the functioning of the RSS. And so that was part of the movement's, organizational culture. And so for me, suddenly the whole thing changed because I suddenly had access to them. You see, when I look back on it, it's so funny. All the books written by Indologists about the Hindu movement were based on, well, something else than direct contact, which was very limited to them. And for me, suddenly all the doors went open. I even could sit in on a few policy-making meetings that they had and so on. And so I got to know lots of things that then I used for the next work, which was a PhD thesis about the political Hindu movement that, you see, through no special merit of my own, was full of new information. And so I earned my PhD thesis with that. That became my book, Decolonizing the Hindu Mind. But at any rate, that is all the fruit of this initial Ayodhya book I wrote. So I don't think that book itself has any special value. It certainly is completely outdated now. But it played a major role for me. Also, in India, it was noticed because the opposition leader at the time, L.K. Advani, presented it in a press conference, which was presided over by Girilal Jain, the ex-editor of the Times of India. And so the book was not special, but special about the book was that here was suddenly a Westerner who said publicly that the Hindu side is right. They claim that there was a temple, but effectively there really was a temple.